Hi, let's discuss the concept of prorating expenses for closing disclosure documents.
Prorated expenses on closing documents. A closing disclosure presents the buyer and seller with a financial summary of the deal. Items are credited and debited to each party according to who is liable for the charge or who is benefiting. Period over which item is prorated. Some fees are split or prorated between the buyer and seller. A credit means that money is being given to the person receiving the credit. A debit means that the person is being charged money. The period over which the fees are prorated is based on who owned the property and when. For example, if the seller prepaid the homeowners association bill for the month of closing, the days that the buyer would own the property would be calculated and used to determine how much the buyer owes the seller for the prepaid expense. Period allocated to buyer and period allocated to seller. These calculations are made based on the day of closing. The buyer takes the day of closing in the calculations unless otherwise directed in a contract or a stored problem. Different types of fees required different periods for allocation. Property taxes are paid an entire year behind, so the entire year is accounted for in the calculations. On the other hand, mortgage interest is paid just 1 month behind. So the period used for the calculation would be the 1 month that the property was closing within. Prorations are entered on the closing document in the format of a double entry system. If a credit is given to one party, either the buyer or the seller, then a debit is given to the other party, and vice versa. Items requiring a prorated split between the buyer and seller include prepaid rent, property taxes, mortgage interest on assumed mortgages, and homeowner association fees. Items paid in arrears are entered as a credit to the buyer and a debit to the seller. Items paid ahead are entered as a credit to the seller and a debit to the buyer. Proration methods. Actual closing statements will use a 365-day method for calculations. This method requires using the actual number of days in any month drawn into a calculation. For exams, however, test takers may be directed to use the statutory method. This method uses 30 days as a base for every month calculation rather than the actual days in the month. It also uses 360 as a basis for the year rather than 365. If a test question fails to indicate which method to use, always use the actual number of days. And for exams, then, you would always be using 28 days for February. Memorizing calendar days. To complete proration calculations using the 365-day method, students of real estate will have to have the number of days in each month memorized. Most will have learned the days of the week without any extra effort while in elementary school. However, many other people may benefit from using a nursery rhyme to recall how many days are in each month. "30 days hath September" poem. "30 days hath September, April, June, and November. February has 28 alone, all the rest has 31, except in leap year, that's the time when February's days are 29. Others benefit by relying on the knuckles. This is a memory trick that involves counting the months on your knuckles and the grooves between the knuckles. Form two fists and butt your fists together. January is tagged as your far left knuckle. February drops to the right space between the knuckle. March is on the second knuckle. April, the space in between the second and the third knuckle. May, back on the third knuckle. And June drops down with July on the fourth knuckle. You skip the thumb knuckles, so August is on the first left knuckle on the right hand. September drops down, etc. Every month that landed on a knuckle has 31 days, and every month that landed on a space between the knuckles is 30 days, or 28 for February. This graphic demonstrates the knuckle method. As you can see, your January, March, May, and July on your left hand, and then your August, October, December are actually counted on the knuckles themselves and are allotted 31 days. And then February, April, and June are in the space in between the knuckles. So they're 30 days with the exception of February, of course. And also then on the right hand, September and November are between as well. It's kind of hard to picture perhaps for you on the actual picture, but try to pair it up with your actual knuckles yourself and then do the pattern and you should be able to see how that works.